You guys know what's crazy? Is last week, whenever I was filming with Michael Kramer, who is the cancer survivor that I got to interview, check that video out if you haven't. I was thanking you guys for 25,000 subscribers. And then today, whenever I upload that video, I'm already at 26,000 subscribers. And that's just insane to me. I don't know if many of you know this, but I've wanted to do YouTube since I graduated college back in 2018. I was just always so in my head about it. I had a ton of old videos that since I've erased. And so to finally be getting somewhere with my YouTube channel is amazing. And it feels so good to me because sometimes we do reach our goals. It just takes 10 times as long as we thought it would. And one positive out of my whole skin disease mycobacterium situation is the fact that I get to have a platform like this and connect with you guys. I love when you comment on my videos. You guys have said some of the most meaningful things and really keep me going whenever I get in my head and feel like giving up, which happens a little bit too much than it probably should. But that's why I wanted to talk about a really important topic today. I'm going to be covering 3 stories about people that have seriously inspired me. I just thought it was the perfect time to have this episode. So let's get into it. I have my handy dandy iPad where I jot down some notes and things so that I can remember everything and have a good podcast going. So if I look down at this sometimes, please forgive me. Anyways, okay. Today's episode is people who have used their insecurities and imperfections to catapult their success. So the first person that I have is someone who touched me so dearly last November of 2023. I was at the grocery store and I saw Whitney Simmons on the cover of Women's Health. And no, I'm not talking about Whitney Simmons. But I got that Women's Health magazine because I saw Whitney Simmons on the cover, and she also inspires me a lot with the whole skin problem that I have. But instead, in the Women's Health issue, they featured a number of women who are incredibly inspiring. I literally remember reading the magazine article about this person, and I'm sobbing. I'm literally bawling. And then my partner at the time hears me crying and walks into the living room, and they're like, "Oh my God, what are you crying about?" And I'm like, "This is the most beautiful story." So I had to mention her. And this amazing person is Chelsea Hill. So as you can see, Chelsea Hill was featured in this women's magazine. So here's a little background on Chelsea Hill. She was a dancer her whole life, basically. She absolutely loved dance. It was her everything. And at just 17 years old, she was paralyzed from the waist down. More specifically, and from the words of Chelsea Hill herself, she says, "One night while out with friends, I made the decision to get in the car with someone who had been drinking. At just 17 years old, my life was changed forever when we hit a tree head on and I was instantly paralyzed from the waist down. When my injury tried to steal my one love, dance, I fought back. Creating a space for women with disabilities to connect and dance together has shown that a fulfilling life is possible on the other side of tragedy." Even that gets me emotional. Like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to make it through this episode without crying. It's just not going to happen, especially just because of the way this story pulls at my heartstrings. So Chelsea now has an organization of women called the Roulettes who dance and create choreography in wheelchairs. It is amazing to me that Chelsea Hill's purpose clearly has been to help other women with disabilities, other women in wheelchairs, be able to move and express their bodies in a way that otherwise they would not have been able to. It is just incredibly beautiful to me the way that she has transformed her life after such tragedy. Anyways, I remember whenever I was reading the magazine article with Chelsea Hill that there was a specific part that really touched me. And it was whenever she was in the hospital, accepting the fact that she had been paralyzed from the waist down. And she goes and asks the doctor, "Am I going to be able to have babies one day?" And the doctor responds to her and says, "I don't know. Let's take things day by day." I know personally how devastated I would be if anything took away my ability to have children one day, because that's my biggest dream, is to be a mother. I really should not record these episodes close to my period. Anyways, I would like to share with you guys that Chelsea is actually married to what seems to be such a sweet husband, and she has a beautiful daughter. And she actually shares on her Instagram some of the struggles of being a mother who is paralyzed. And you can also see that she is teaching kids who are also in wheelchairs, who are disabled for whatever reason. I can't imagine the impact that she's having on these children's lives. So here's another picture with her and the Roulettes, and they actually have a mentorship program, virtual weekly dance classes. They perform all over the world and host Roulette's Experience every summer, which is a place for everyone to get together for 4 days and just love life. Chelsea Hill, God bless her heart. She is such an impressive woman. I love that she has created a way for women with disabilities to still dance, to still feel a connection and love for their own bodies, to help children, to show women with disabilities that they can still be good mothers, and to show us all that regardless if we have an illness, a disability, an imperfection, an insecurity, that love is still out there and love is still possible. And I tell that to myself because I oftentimes doubt that there is someone out there who is going to be 100% happy with my skin and my imperfections. And it's something that runs through my head and runs through all of our heads, regardless of the imperfections that we may have, that we think about, our flaws. And so, again, to say the obvious, if someone who went through such a tragedy at just 17 years old, who is now 32, can be in Women's Health magazine, helping people all over the world, married with a beautiful baby girl, that there's some hope for all of us who are passing through difficult situations. And we never know what life is going to look like on the other side of tragedy. Okay. The next person that I would like to talk about is a man named Nick Vujicic. It's a hard name to pronounce. And this guy is incredible. I will say that the reason why I know about this guy is because my mother absolutely loves his content. And I think whenever I was a little girl is kind of whenever he was popping off and really getting his notoriety in the news and across medias. And I remember one day talking to my mom. I was feeling really down and insecure about everything that was happening. I think I was really in the middle of like fighting my disease, and it was just one of those bad days. And my mom goes, "Look, do you know who Nick Vujicic is?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" She goes, "That man was born with no arms and no legs, and he turned his life around. He has a wife, he has children." And I was like, "What? That sounds impossible. What are you talking about? A man with no arms and no legs is famous and a motivational speaker?" And yes, he is. This is Nick Vujicic. He is a Australian man who was born in 1982 with tetra amelia syndrome, a rare disorder that basically you're born with no limbs. You're born with the absence of all four limbs. In this article titled "The Incredible Life and Achievements of Nick Vujicic," you actually see him as a baby with no arms, no legs. And the insane thing about his story is his mother had no idea that her baby was going to come out this way. When the baby did, it was a huge surprise to doctors, obviously to the family, and she just felt destroyed. She was like, "Oh my God, my child is going to have a horrible life. This is just going to be miserable for him." And she didn't know what to do. And as a new mother, I can't imagine how she was feeling realizing this and trying to imagine the life that he was one day going to create for himself. Luckily, Nick was clearly born into that body with no arms and no legs for a reason. That soul was there to touch lives and to help people. Even as a child, he was incredibly determined in school, and you can see that he was born with a small little nub that he has been able to basically base all of his mobility off of. He can scoot with that foot and walk a little bit, and then he can I guess, right with that little limb that he has. This picture right here is a photo of probably the most persistent child in the world. I mean, name a more persistent child than a child who is so desperate to learn and to get their education that they would face school, they would face bullying, they would face so much hardship just to get an education and just to prove to people that he could, because he truly wanted to. Unfortunately, however, beginning at the age of 8, he battled deeply with depression and felt like he was always going to be a burden on other people's lives. He had an extremely difficult time dealing with all of the rejection and judgment from the outside world. And even as a 10-year-old boy, he tried committing suicide in the bathtub. Everything changed for Nick one day whenever his mom noticed that his situation was really taking a toll on him. And one day she decided to show him a newspaper that featured a man that had a severe disability, much more than Nick's. From that moment on, Nick became grateful for his life. He also said he found peace after he got his relationship with God. Although he couldn't make some things happen easily, he believed it's not what you have, but what you do with it. He frequently told himself, "I'm not afraid to fail." And you would be so surprised that he can wash his hair, brush his teeth, writes 43 words per minute, can throw tennis balls, he can play the drums, shave his hair, get a glass of water, and also answer a phone call. His hobbies include swimming, golfing, and we even see him writing with a marker in his mouth. And he's even been on a surfboard. I mean, this is just incredible. So basically, the story continues on after he saw that newspaper article with another man who was much more disabled than him. He started to change his mindset and believe that he could really do good things with his life despite his awful situation. And he began public speaking at age 17. He started giving talks at his prayer group and then traveled around the world for 5 years as a motivational speaker. And even to this day, he has his own ministry and he continues his public speaking. The most beautiful part of this story, of course, Nick always dreamed of being a husband, and he has a beautiful wife, Kane. They live together in California with their 4 children. They have 2 sons and twin daughters. That is just amazing. And I remember my mom saying, she was like, look, if this woman can fall in love with this man for who he truly is, don't doubt that you can find love out there. And I have to believe it, you know? And it's like, it's so true. So I'm going to show you this really awesome video.
I have a wife, 4 children. Kane and I, we're in love and we love our family. We are doing life together. But before I met my wife, and it was love at first sight, by the way, I couldn't feel my legs when I looked at her and she looked at me. And that was one of my biggest dreams, to be married. But being married as a big dream of mine wasn't my entirety of my purpose that I was made for. I, as a teenager, had to first find out, why was I born this way? And knowing that God is in control.
Wow. Isn't that such a great video? I mean, he talks about figuring out why he was made this way. That was the first rite of passage for him to receive all the blessings and all the success that he had going forward in his life. And while it's so easy for us to question, like, oh, what a tragedy, like, how could this happen to someone? I mean, how difficult? I mean, yes, incredibly difficult, but also it's quite difficult to think that God didn't specifically put him in this body to carry out such an amazing mission. I mean, I just have to believe that. And he also quotes, "If God can use a man without arms and legs to be his hands and feet, then he will certainly use any willing heart." I know that there are people out there who are not religious that may be watching my channel, and that's okay. I think that we can all, safely express ourselves here, but I personally am a believer of God, and my faith has gotten me through some incredibly difficult times. And I don't care what you identify with. One thing for sure is that anyone can benefit from watching his speeches, his motivational videos, and some of his ministry teachings. It is really impressive. And again, everything seems impossible until it's done. And Nick literally did the impossible. How can a man with no limbs do so much with his life and still lead a fulfilled family? I mean, this is probably one of the most impressive people ever, to be honest. And I'm so glad that I know about his story. So here are some really cool pictures of Nick and his wife and children. That's awesome. Good for Nick. It really goes to show that you can still make the life of your dreams out of the shittiest situations. And I hope you guys enjoyed his story. I didn't want to include too many people in this video, but I had to include this next person because I saw her video with Steven, the host of Diary of a CEO podcast, and it is really impressive. Lauren Wasser is a model who lost both of her legs at 24 years old because of toxic shock syndrome. One day, her life changed forever. She was having a heavy period, and she was changing her tampons regularly. I wish I knew the brand of tampon that she was using that day, but I wonder if she just can't say, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I wonder also because it's like, well, if this happens to someone, like, can you sue at all? Or is it because on all tampon boxes they label toxic shock syndrome as a possibility that it relieves any tampon company of liability for causing toxic shock syndrome? I have no idea. Anyways, let me continue with the story. Just a couple thoughts to consider. So she's having a really heavy period. It's a normal day. She starts to feel a little sickly, and she even has a friend's birthday party to attend around 7 p.m. that night. She goes to the friend's party even though she's not feeling good. Obviously, she wants to be a good friend. The second she walks through the door, all of her friends look at her and they say, "Oh my God, Lauren, you look white. You look like a ghost. You look sick. Go home and get some rest." So that's exactly what she did. Of course, on her way home, she called her mom and she told her mom that she was feeling very sick. A couple hours later, her mom tried reaching her and she was calling and calling, and Lauren did not answer the phone. A couple minutes later, her mom ended up calling the police for a welfare check, and thank God she did. Because when the police came inside of her apartment, they found Lauren on the floor, face down, defecated, and just 10 minutes from death. She was rushed to St. John's, which was the nearest hospital, where an infectious disease doctor, that's the specialty that I need for my disease as well, an infectious disease doctor saved her life by asking one question, and it was, does she have a tampon in? They couldn't figure out why this young, healthy woman was going through these horrible symptoms. She had a fever of 107. She ended up having 2 heart attacks, and the doctor said, okay, take the tampon out, send it for testing. They sent it for testing, and it tested positive for toxic shock syndrome 1, TSS1. So she was given 1% chance of survival after her 2 heart attacks, and she was also in a coma for a week and a half. All because of one tampon, one day. All because we have periods and we want to be able to deal with them comfortably. She spreads a lot of awareness today about how tampons are simply unsafe. She said specifically that there isn't even a tampon on the market that doesn't come with pesticides. A lot of them obviously have bleach, but she said even the cotton ones have pesticide problems, which I was not aware of. And to be honest, I'm a user of Playtex, and I know that that's probably not the smartest thing for me to be using. But after this, I can guarantee you I am finding a better tampon option. Anyways, so when Lauren finally woke up, she saw that her feet had already begun to turn black. Her hands did too. And to this day, doctors don't know how she didn't have to end up getting her hands amputated. Unfortunately, one night when she was alone in her hospital bed, she overheard a doctor on the phone scheduling an amputation for a young 24-year-old girl. Lauren immediately begins screaming. She calls for help from her mom. I mean, she starts throwing an absolute fit in the hospital, as she should. What a horrible way to find out that you're going to get your leg amputated. No conversation, no consent. The doctor went straight to scheduling the amputation. And in a case of need, like, I can understand, obviously, but geez, be careful saying that in front of a patient. Anyways, obviously, we know now that she did not just have to get one leg amputated, she had to get both of her legs amputated. At 24 years old, I remember specifically where I was at mentally, because that's obviously whenever I first became sick as well, 23 going into 24. And I can say without a doubt, I mean, at 24, I just felt like a little girl. I felt like just an 18-year-old teenager who's still so new in the world of being an adult, and how utterly confusing it was to be passing through my time in the hospital, my flesh eating itself open. And I can't imagine the strength that she had to have to keep going. And she definitely opens up about her difficulties and finding willingness to live and her desires to commit suicide after this happened. And those are all valid feelings. And she says, I had this thing inside of me telling me to keep going, and I'm so glad that I did. So now I want to talk about what Lauren has been able to do with her life since having her legs amputated. And I think it is just remarkable that this woman has been featured on Vogue, Glamour Magazine, Sports Illustrated, ESPN. She has a whole Sports Illustrated section for her in a bunch of different swimsuits. I mean, it's just insane. And as you can see these pictures, she shows off her golden legs. She has this stunning face. She sounds so smart when she speaks and like such a good person. And the most shocking thing is she quotes, "God has blessed me so much. I have everything I need and more. I barely even think about the fact that I don't have legs anymore." Obviously, it's been some time since this has happened, but she has done just an incredible job at changing her life around, becoming so successful. She's even walking in runway shows with her prosthetic legs. I mean, she absolutely is the golden girl. This is phenomenal seeing this, and I can't imagine how other people must feel when they see something like this. First off, the inclusivity from these magazines to have someone like Lauren Wasser featured is beautiful. All of those magazines are doing a great job by featuring someone like her. And I'm so glad that she had the opportunity to share her story on the Diary of a CEO, because it is so important for us as women to know what we are putting in our bodies. And obviously, like, this is a very sensitive and private entry to the body, and we have to be so careful about the chemicals that we're putting inside of our bodies when we choose to use tampons. What a phenomenal human being. Thank you for saving so many women with your story. And that wraps up the 3 people that I wanted to talk about who used their extremely unfair circumstances to propel them into their success. I think stories like this are so important for us to hear and to collect in our mental bank, because when we are having that bad day, we can reference memories like this, memories of stories that have impacted us emotionally and that have given us hope. It is my goal in having this channel and in having this platform to continue to share inspiring stories and to help other people through their journey of life. There is such a grand purpose of these people's lives and such a great takeaway that would have only been possible with the suffering and tragedy that they had to experience in their lives. And the most interesting thing is that every single person here that I have talked about today discusses how thankful they are for their lives today and how blessed they feel to be alive and to have led a life full of purpose. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I hope that it just motivated and touched at least one person, because I know I'm never going to forget these stories, and I'm going to be able to use these as my arsenal to help other people in daily conversations and whatever it is. And maybe you can too. If you pass through someone who's going through a terrible situation, you can reference one of these stories and encourage them to not give up and to not lose hope. And that's what Beyond Skin Deep is all about. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And again, please, if you liked this video, smash that like button. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and comment down below if there is a story that I should know about or even share on my channel. I will see you guys next week.